Hi, this short video is just going to go over how you can use the skills feature in SeeSaw to create skills, attach skills to students, to look over the skills that, look at your class and the skills that have been identified and export that information so that you can use it to inform your practice as part of implementing the literacy progressions in pedagogy and thinking about where to take your kids next. So what I'm going to do for this one is I'm actually going to look at my previous class just because there's more information there for us to work with. And I'm going to look at creating a skill around one of the learning progressions. So I've gone into Plan 2 and I've looked at Year 4, the domain literacy, and I'm just looking at ADS 7 indicators, so looking at flexible strategies with 2 and 3 digit numbers, so ADS 7 and ADS 8 indicators. So they're the ones that I'm working with. So ADS 7 indicators talk about applying knowledge of 10 as a unit, multiplying 10s and 1 flexibly for addition and subtraction, using part knowledge of numbers to 20 to calculate 2-digit addition and subtraction. And then ADS 8 looks at manipulates hundreds, tens, and ones flexibly to add and subtract 3-digit numbers, manipulates place value of numbers flexibly in regrouping for addition in 3-digit numbers, etc. So that's what I'm looking at in terms of my learning progression. And I'm going to create a skill for my students around those learning progressions. So what I'm going to do is I need to do it through, there's 2 ways that you can create a skill. You can do it through your skills menu. However, I'm actually going to do it attached to one of my work samples. So let's find a work sample. There's a few maths ones there. I'm just looking if there was anything specifically. So what I could do here is I could go into my folders and I want to see anything that had to do with maths strand or maths block. Okay. All right. So maths. Yeah, quite a lot here. Okay, for example, I'm just going to pick, here we go. So here's some Maths Town work that some of the kids did with 3 and 4 digit numbers. So I'm going to take this particular example. I'm going to click on my graduation cap and I'm going to add a new skill. So my skill name, so I'm looking at flexible strategies with 3-digit numbers and beyond. How about we call that our skill? Okay. Subject is maths. Category, well, addition or subtraction. Grade level, so we'll probably do a 4 for this example. Quick code, so you can put in ADS 8, so ADS 8 can be your code, or you can just put in flexible maths strategies. Okay, so your description, so let's pick this one, so we can put that as my description, so that comes straight from the progressions. Okay, so I'm happy with that. I just have to, we'll see if it might not accept that because of the dash, but let's just see. No, it's happy with it, so therefore I've created a new skill, and you can see it down there. Flexible strategies for 3-digit numbers, and that's come straight for the progression. So what I can do now, and I just tick that. So I've tagged this student with this skill. Okay, so you can see now that that's kind of highlighted blue. That means that this student, this particular work sample, has that skill attached to it, or a skill attached to it. So then, for example, here's another one. So this particular student to me demonstrated flexible strategies for maths. So I'm going to click on, so if I'm going to apply now, so I've created a skill, now I'm going to apply a skill to a different student. I'm going to click here and I can search for the skill. So if I know it's ADS Okay, it's going to come up. If I know it's flex, it's going to come up, or you can manually search and scroll down. So I know that's the one that I'm working with. Now, again, you can rate how well they're achieving this. So like the progression. So remember when we looked at the progressions, you could click in and you could say sometimes, always, never, kind of thing. I can do the same sort of thing here. So I might say, look, this is a sometimes kind of thing. And then I can revisit that down the track and then give 4 stars to say that I'm always seeing this from this particular student. So that's now I've tagged this skill onto that student. Another example. Okay, so here's another example of it. Again, great. I'm looking at flexible strategy. So looking at my progression again. I'm looking at place value of numbers flexibly. I'm looking at regrouping. I'm looking at trading and exchange of units. So I'm thinking, yep, this student has demonstrated this progression to me. So again, I can manually search for it. I can manually search for it this way. I can search for it this way. So here it is. Fantastic. Tick the checker box. I think I'm seeing it. This is the second or third time I've seen it from this student, so I'm going to give 3 stars now. Okay, etc. So that's how you create a skill and you tag a student with a skill. So I'm going to do another example. So let's pick a different, so let's do numeracy. And forgive me because I'm still working on progressions. Okay, maybe measurements or geometric properties. Let's see if angles. Okay, so for example, I'm looking at understanding geometric properties. I'm looking at aligns the corresponding faces of an object with its net, or recognizes angles. Here we go. Angles by folding shapes. So angles was here. Okay, estimates and identifies, measures angles in degrees up to 1 revolution, uses angles properties to identify perpendicular and parallel lines. Okay, so I'm going to work with this particular progression. So I'm going to create a skill in here, and I'm going to actually use some of the work samples I know that the students had created with their Ruby Goldberg machines, where they'd gone in, and here's an example, and they talked about angles. So if I'm going to create a skill, again, I click on the graduation cap. That brings me all the skills that I've got listed. I'm going to add a new skill. The skill name is going to be that angles. Okay. Oh, silly me. Angles. I'm going to then go back in here. I'm going to pick this particular description. Uses angle properties, maths, category, probably angles again. Now this was a 4 quick code. Okay. Or you might even be more specific and say lines, because that's specifically what they're talking about there. Okay, so I'm happy with that. I'm going to tick. So I've created the skill. Now I can then choose to tag this particular work sample with this skill or not. So I'm going to tag this student with this skill. I'm going to say, look, I'm just beginning to see some discussion about angles there. So I'm going to give it a 1 star. Give it a tick, and there's the skills updated and it's tagged on the student work sample. So then as students are submitting different work samples to you, or you're taking images of student work samples, you can, so here's another one, this is another student, so click on my graduation cap. Yep, I'm seeing some angle stuff there. I'm going to give it a 1 star, and there it is. Okay, your skill has updated. What you can then do is you can actually go into your skills menu, and you'll see this awesome little table that pops up, and it tells you the skill, the student, and what their rating for that skill was. So for example, we looked at the first one we talked about flexible strategies with 3-digit numbers. So it'll give you the highest rating the student received for that particular work sample. So there's your flexible numbers. So she got a 2. So then that could then inform my learning progressions, in that I could go in and go, yep, that's a sometimes. And identify that student with a sometimes. So the ones we just created then about angles and lines. So this particular student has demonstrated to me and got a 1. Okay, so that's the highest rating. This particular student demonstrated to me and got a 1. Okay, so then you can get a quick summary of your class and their skills. I can break that up by category. I can break that up by subject, specific students. So if I just want to see Edward's stuff, it just gives me that. So I can do it that way, etc. Now, what I can also do is export skills data. So what this will do is it will actually export all the data into a CSV, which is a type of Excel document, or Sheets, Google Sheets document, so that I have that information on hand, and that can inform my practice. So I've just downloaded the export. It's just downloaded there. You can see it in the bottom corner of my screen. I'm just going to click into it and show you it's given me the skill name. Now, just so you know, with a CSV, it doesn't look very pretty. It'll export your data, but you will have to obviously play with it a bit to make it readable, like I'm just doing now. Okay, student ID. So some of this information would probably be irrelevant, but some of it's like skill category. Awesome, that's going to help me. Student ID is just their SeeSaw number. It's got the date of their most recent score, and then it's also got a link to a pitch to the most recent score. I can add filters, because I like adding filters, and that makes my life easier. And then I can then go in and sort by, okay, I want to see all the students that demonstrated flexible strategies with 3-digit numbers. Done. There it is there. Student ID. Okay. So the student ID is relevant because that is the student name. So it doesn't give you the student name, it only exports it via student ID. Okay? But at least it gives you some information, and I can actually provide you the student ID numbers, so you can then just cross-check which ID number relates to which student in your class. So I hope that was helpful and informative. I think the skills feature is awesome, particularly for us going down the literacy progressions path. Okay, thanks.